to another StarCraft 2 review video. This video, we're going to be doing something as part of almost an ongoing series. We're going to be looking at the new map pool that's coming to StarCraft 2. Now, if you like such content, well, before you see it, you come back, do like this video at the end, and subscribe. If not for me, Brother Marine. Why do I even shake this guy? Okay, never mind. It's a ranged unit. Okay, alright, so here we go. So very recently, we've gotten a tweet over the last couple of days by Dimitri. Now, who is Dimitri? He is the tournament manager for the ESL Pro Tour, and he's recently announced that this is going to be the map pool for Katowice 2023. And if this is going to be the map pool for Katowice 2023, then this is also going to be the map pool hitting the ladder soon. Now, why am I making this video? Well, in the past, we used to have beautiful posts like this. Again, all of the links you see up top will be down in the description on YouTube. We used to have beautiful posts like these written. This one is in September 2020, where there would be a full review, a full breakdown. You can click on this and go and take a look at what Jagannatha looked like. However, since October of 2020, StarCraft 2 announced that they would be no longer having updates, and the posts now look like this. Yep, new ladder season, da 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 da. And most of the team went over to Frost Giant Studios, all the StarCraft 2 team. But again, this is not a Frost Giant video, this is going to be this is going to be a StarCraft 2 map video. Now, what makes me qualified, so to speak, to talk about these maps? Well, I did a series in the past. A link to that should be either down below or floating around on the stream, where I played on literally every single map, the TLMC, at least 3 times. That's me. Again, apologies. The audio for that one has some issues. It does cut out, so I'm sorry. That's all I can say. But what I did do is that if we go back to these maps, I've played on every single one of these at least 3 times with all 3 races, with the exception of NeoHumanity, because this was not part of it was not in the TLMC top 16. So to give you an idea of where these maps come from, what happens is that the TLMC is a tournament for map makers. There's also a section where you can see the games played, the Wardy TLMC tournament, that you can go and see the pros already playing on some of these maps, maybe get an idea of some of the strategies. The idea is that you can submit your maps to this tournament. The top 16 get selected, and the top 5 get additional cash prizes for winning, again sponsored or powered by Shopify. So when this came out, I basically tried to drag as many friends as I could to play customs on these, so that we get a feel of those maps. In that process, I also wrote a very long text here, which kind of goes through, my thoughts on each and every one of those maps. You see Pink Moon, Star Child, Dragon Scales. Yes, now down in the description, there's also going to be a link to where you can find the replays of all of those games, as well as this note you see here on the screen, as well as a few replays from NeoHumanity. Alright, so let's keep this. So what we're going to do now is this. We're going to be going through them one by one. We're going to be seeing what they said on the TLMC side, and their final ranking in the winners edition, and then what they look like here. By the way, this guy Leveson, he did a great job. He's actually created high resolution images for all the maps, and we'll be using all of these 3 sources in tandem, and where possible I'll also be promoting the creators of these maps. These guys and gals for the matter have worked very hard to create new and exciting things for StarCraft 2. Blizzard is no longer doing that, so it's time for the community to carry the torch. Alright, enough blabbering, let's get to it. So the first one on the list in alphabetical order is Ancient Cystine. Isn't Cystine a toilet? Never mind. Alright, so let's go here. So Ancient Cystine by Sky Piranha. 1. A balanced layout which provides room for many different strategies. A short and concise description, as he said that It was his attempt to make the most standard layout, so not much to write about. So this is what it looks like here, pretty standard. Um, if we go to this one, the high def version, let's see. The only change I believe is the overlord pillar has been moved slightly. I think a complaint I had was that it could see a bit too much. Okay, so okay, so what I remember from this map. Okay, so frankly, I did not rank HSSD too high. It's very, very. I mean, you just look at the textures. It's honestly not my favorite. Originally in the TLMC version, the Overlord pillar here could see the gas. Could see I think both the gases, which was definitely an issue. I hope it's been fixed again. What I'm talking about is when I play on the TLMC versions, there have been minor changes to the ESL versions, but I have not had the time to go in and play on all of them except NeoHumanity because I hadn't tested that. Okay, what else we got? Otherwise, it's pretty standard. One thing I found that was really cool on this map was that if you went to some of the waterfalls or water effects, I believe near here you can actually hear the water falling. That's pretty cool. Otherwise, it's really standard. You can take either your triangle or your line base. Um, yeah, it's a stock standard map. Uh, the only other issue is that Zerg might have a little bit of an issue spreading creep beyond the center of the map because a lot of it is either going low ground to high ground, low ground to high ground, so you can't just spread creep as easily. However, for pro Zerg players that have overlords, that have units, and creep spread's not going to be too much of an issue. There are also only 3 layers on this map. An issue in the last TLMC, or an interesting thing that they tried to do, was to encourage more than 3 layers. Now the editor can go up to 16 layers, but realistically it was 5. If I remember correctly, none of these maps have taken advantage of that specifically, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because there are already going to be some interesting things. By the way, the creator of that is this handsome gentleman over here, Sky Pirata. A link to his Twitter will be down in the description below as well. Alright, so that's Ancient Sistine. Okay, let's go to altitude. Oh boy, altitude. Altitude, I have. Altitude. Altitude. So altitude is actually a map that I've played for a very, very long time. There's even a video on my channel where I played it even before it was in the TLMC. I found out for that. Yeah, a link to that will be, here it is, a map review for when I first played Altitude. Okay, so Altitude is a very interesting one because Altitude is in the freestyle section. So what this means is that this map is for ideas outside of the box. And I'll be honest, I think Altitude is insanely Zerg favored. Now, here's the key about Altitude as a whole. Altitude has a goal base. Look at this version. Oh, by the way, for HS16, and I forgot to say this earlier, HS16 was ranked 12th in the TLMC final results. So that's just its placement. So let's go to Altitude. Okay, so this is actually probably a better way. This one they do make use uh of the multi-layered approach. So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 full layers of depth, which is interesting. It makes the center of the map a little bit more tricky to fight on. When I watched the Wadi Team Liquid contest, nothing major happened. But when I did my testing of the maps, I think it's broken. And here's why. Because the biggest mechanic of this map, and the one thing that puts it in freestyle, is the fact that you have a goal base here with a sensor tower and destructible rocks. Yeah, over here. Okay, so this is what happened in the game I tested it out. The Zerg player, being a crafty one, he took this as his natural. Immediately sent the drone, or was it here or was it here? He took one of these bases as his natural, and there was absolutely nothing the Terran could do in order to stop it. Nothing, absolutely nothing. We have a link. Oh, hey, this is okay. So this is character R. This is his Twitter, which I actually did not know. Yeah. So where was it? Ah, here it is. Ah, here it is. So I had a lot of issues here because if Zerg is able to, okay, so here's the issue with gold bases. Gold bases tend to favor Zerg because they're the ones who expand the fastest. They're the ones who are going to reach those middles first. Here's the thing: if Terran plays a simple two-base strategy, and if Zerg is able to take this and defend it, because and here's something very very important that happens when you take the base, you don't get vision, but once the base is up and running, for just about every race, you'll be able to get vision because the worker unit will count as a unit towards the watchtower. Now, so if you take the goal base on this map, no, no. What happened in all the games? You just take the goal base beside it, and you use it as a strong forward position. Me and a bunch of other players did that. It is an excellent strategy in my opinion. You could look unless you're telling me that this entire area down south, the entire area to the side of the base, you can't build a building. You're gonna do that. When I played Terran on this map, I took main base, natural, third, fourth, planetary fortress. And here's the thing: the vision from the planetary fortress, because workers were mining, I just built the planetary beside hell. Don't have to play for that. So and yeah, I have a full video of me playing a game on this map, and I distinctly remember. You can see it on the mini map here that I took. Here we go. Here we go. I took up a strong defensive position there and was fighting my Protoss opponent. Yeah, so I don't see what's stopping Zerg from coming here and taking this base and then, sending links in order to defend it. It would take Terran longer to be able to knock this down as it would be to do it. Now, something interesting, important to note is that um, every time I built my base, every time I if and I tested this later, that if you destroy this cooling tower, it will destroy the Zeldaga watchtower. It will also destroy your building. So okay, again, this picture is what is gonna happen. Nobody will destroy the. Yeah, you place the base next to the tower. Yeah, of course I did. So, oh, by the way, I'm doing this live on Twitch, so my Twitch will be down in the description if you're watching on YouTube in the future. Yeah, so of course I put my base right there, and planetary fortress, and it's very safe, very defensible. The other key point that if you look very very carefully is that if I control the watchtower, I have vision outside of the cooling tower, whereas if you don't, you only have vision to the cooling tower itself. So that's a gigantic advantage. And again, the, go and look at the replay and see what the Zerg player did. There was also okay. There's also another gripe I have of this map specifically. Again, character, if you're watching this in future, I'm sorry, but this is what happened. This is broken for Zerg because the lava of a dead hatchery counts as a unit. So let me tell you what happened. Terran was up here, Zerg is down here. The Zerg is winning. The Zerg was a better player. We admit that, right? It was high diamond versus low masters. The Zerg took this base down here. Okay, Terran sent the drop over to kill it. The base dies. Without the cooling tower, just walked over and shot the base. Terran leaves. Then, to my utter horror, the lava from the dead hatchery provided vision for the watchtower because the lava counts as a unit. Think about that. The Terran left, and then the Zerg immediately sent the drone and just retook the hatchery. The Terran had no damned idea that that had happened. The Zerg did. And I find that absolutely unacceptable because it means that Zerg as a race has a direct advantage on this map. I'll have a link to this particular video and my specific testing to it. Um, that's one reason why I am very wary of this map being in the map pool. Um, as a result. Now, during the game itself, it did create a lot of tension. It did create this interesting position where I had to fight and defend this. Later, there are liberators here, there were tanks. Um, Towards the end, even character R admitted that if that Protoss had knocked down this tower, it would probably be the better move because Protoss would be. It was here to be precise. Protoss could have blown this up and killed both the tower and the planetary. Then I have to go and clear the rocks and whatever. So okay, so aside from that, all of the games I watched on the TLMs on the Wardy tournament, nobody did that. So we got pretty standard games. You have some pretty interesting positioning down in the center due to different layers and crossing the river. Otherwise, it's fine. If you're playing a stock standard game, you can take either your line or your triangle base. Both have their advantages and disadvantages. Personally, if you're playing TVP where this hatchery nonsense doesn't come into play, the go base, I would actually say you take this base, this base, this base, and then just take this as your fourth. You could take this base, but and here's the if you're taking this base here, it does allow you easy access to come down to here in order to attack the enemy main. Yeah. Yep, so that kind of summarizes my take for altitude. Yep, nice icy river, interesting goal base. It's very Zerg favorite in my opinion due to the fact that how do you punish Zerg for taking this goal base is my question. They get the extra vision on top of that, whoever takes this. Yeah, yeah, there's also quite some airspace to the back, but that's not the main issue. I we'll see how this plays out. I strongly suspect that this map is going to be vetoed. One thing I thought of that could make this more balanced is that if these were just standard minerals rather than gold, because whoever takes this base automatically has additional vision. So that's already an advantage. On top of that, the downside is that you have the tower. But if you have the gold base as well as the tower, I mean, it's going to be so hard to it's going to be a lot harder to dislodge because of the additional vision given. Again, take a look at the replays. Take a look at this video for more evidence of altitude specifically. And as I mentioned, here is the creator of altitude. His Twitter link will be down in the description. All right, so that's altitude. Let's move on to Babylon. Oh, one thing good is that altitude finished second in the TLMC, so 17, so well done. I have made a separate video on this section, which I quite upset about, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Take a look on my YouTube to see my thoughts on that specifically. Okay, let's go to Babylon by Shah. Okay, so this is a fairly small map with standardized expansion patterns for cliff levels. The reason I think this map belongs in the rush category. By the way, yes, this was in the rush category, so it's a bit faster from main base to main base. In their third base, relatively open low ground, triangle third path attacks. Even if the rocks are not taken down, it's possible to attack. Destroying the destructible blocks will shorten the travel time. Attacks and make them quite straightforward to the opposing enemy expansion. Ah, yes, Babylon. No. Click. Node. Click. Instead, Babylon. Okay, so what I liked about Babylon right off the bat was that, and it ranked 7 on my list, was that okay, first of all, I do like the aesthetic. I do like the decorations where where it feels like you're fighting in this almost Californian desert where you do have, growth and shrubbery. This isn't the Sahara. At the same time, this also isn't a dead moon. There is, areas of reddish rock here. Yeah, that you can see. Aside from that, it had. I also like the fact that the colors show you the different height. Okay, Skype Radar, if you're still listening, I'm sorry, but if you go to Ancient Sistine, it's not as clear where some of the high ground, low ground is. Black Engine, honestly, another TLMC map was more guilty of that. But Babylon here, you have very clear. You have this brown for the main base, green for the natural. So this one's the same height. You have red for the third level and pink for the fourth level, going downwards. So I did like this map quite a lot. So the main thing that the creator is talking about is between taking your line base and your triangle base. And the key difference is that if you take your triangle base and you clear these rocks, it's gonna be a much shorter rush distance to start attacking the enemy natural, especially from here to here. And I like these maps because it gives the player a lot of agency to decide, okay, where do I want to take this? Do I want to take this base down here in a straight line, which is on the low ground and hardest to defend? Or do I want to take a triangle base, which is a little bit safer, but vulnerable to the fourth base up here? And after you take your third base, be it here or here, where's your fourth going to be? Are you going to take, if you take 1, 2, 3, is 4 going to be here? Well, probably. If you take 1, 2, 3, which is going to be your fourth? And whoever takes control of this, do you want to take it in a triangle so that you can secure the fourth high ground, which is close to the natural? I'm sorry, to the main, which is you can't really see it on this map, but this one and this one is on the same height. So natural still has high ground main still has high ground advantage. It creates a lot of interesting opportunities. We were actually lucky in testing that we actually got a mech game, but we felt that even in that mech game, uh, it wasn't an issue. There was nothing broken. It still felt fair. I can see them. I think too much could make the map look like. Yeah, of course. When it comes to colors, there is an argument. It's a very fine line that you need to walk between having the map look like nice and cohesive versus having good colors. And of course, there are always other issues about aesthetics. About some people have color blindness. Is that going to be a factor? But yeah, that was my take on Babylon specifically. Overall, does it apply? Yep, and again, oh yeah, another thing is a good use of the rocks to reduce the rush because again, when you have destructible rocks, you have something that gives the player agency on how they want to use it. And I believe that the Zerg players all knock down all the rocks in order to open up the map, but that creates some very interesting points where the Terran or Pronossus can come and engage the Zerg as they're taking down the rocks. To say that no, I want to leave these rocks up. You want to knock them down? We're gonna have to fight over that, and that creates more interesting games. Right, so that's Babylon. Okay, moving on. Ah yes, where did Babylon finish? It finished at 9th place in the TLMC. Alright, Dragon Scales. Ah, this one. Alright, so Dragon Scales was created by Milo on Fire, now going by the name May on Fire on Twitter, linking it down in the description. And forward high ground outpost plays a major part in defense and coordinating attacks. The linear third open and easy to access, whereas the triangle third is choked with the option to partially block a ramp with the collapsible rocks. For the expansion may attack blast connection rocks, which restricting movement in some parts of the map. Okay, great. Okay, so I like this map as well because it has just 3 layers, but it's used very well. So you can see that this is fundamentally different because of the base up front here, where you do have a strong forward, potentially fourth base that you ought to take control of just to be able to defend your flanks. Now, aside from that, um, I like this map a lot because it really creates a situation of where do you want to take your third? Do you want to take your third here, which has a very, very open area before you hit both a high ground and a bridge? Or would you rather take your triangle base here, which has 2 openings, but those 2 openings can either be narrowed because there are destructible rocks that you can knock down in order to reduce the distance, or do you want to make it even more open by destroying the destructible rocks here? I believe that with 3 depots you can wall this off, and with 2 depots you can wall this off. Here it's going to require a lot more depots, but again, it's a bit defensible if you can take these positions. Yeah, then you have the more complicated base up front here, where I Well, again, I can't imagine any player except maybe a very aggressive player taking the third here, but that is an option. Something that I foresee will come into effect greater in the game. In addition, attacking the center is a bit tricky because of the side blocker here, as well as the fact that you have to go through several different attack paths. Several different attack paths, like think about it this way. If you're going from natural to the other side of the map, you have to go down here, then up here or here, then down here again, then up here again, then down here again, up here again. So at every point there, the defender, especially if they're on the high ground, does have the advantage to try and slow you down in a way that I think is fair. So this map does have a lot of positioning that one must take into account. In addition to that, something that's really, really cool is that as Terran, if you put a siege tank here at this corner, you can actually shell the ramp here. You can knock down the rocks and it covers a little bit of the pathway there. So it's quite defensible from a Terran perspective. It's a little bit tricky as Zerg when it comes to creep spread because when you're going up and down, it's a little bit of an issue. But I don't think it's broken to any one race. Overlord pillar here. That's still there? Yeah, Overlord pillar is still here. It only sees a single gas. And I think it's quite fair in that regard. Yeah, so as you can see, I gave it third in my rankings. I like the colors, I like the collapsible rocks, I liked the line versus triangle. In fact, another issue of the line versus triangle is where do you take your fourth? And I really love this because if you take 1, 2, of course, wherever you take your third, any of these other options for fourth space is open. You could take 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me do it here. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do 1, 2, 4. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4. You could do 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4. Yeah, sure. It's up to you. You decide how you want to do it. And this can be really interesting because the opponent can be taking a completely different base layout or exactly identical. And just the movements of attacks, in my opinion, are going to give you very, very dynamic games on this map. So I ranked it third in my personal rankings. Uh yeah, a lot of good positioning. The front positioning is interesting. So for this, and despite my issues, however, the TLMC results did not give it such a good ranking, and it ended up 14th in the final tournament results. So that's anyway, that's my take on Dragon Scales. Okay, let's move on. Grevsan. Oh man, Grevsan. Now Grevsan is created by Lagan. Macro map with rig layout of 16 bases. There are forward bases, usual third. Click. Let's load the maps up real quick. Focus on line of sight. Huge rocks at the ramps. Single line of sight blockers. Forward, basic, middle lines. Okay. I'm very biased towards Grevsan because during my testing, this was the single best game that we had. It was my friend Synchronize against May on Fire. Yes, this person came on, played the game. It was great. It was beyond awesome because it was exciting. May played a very raider style of Protoss where you take a lot of bases, you go mass gateway units, you do zealot run-bys, backed up by stalkers, like Link Roach. And Synchronize really had to fight hard win, but eventually he was able to out-whack-a-mole May, and again go and see the replay. And it was glorious. But coming back to the actual map, I do like the aesthetics. I do like the way that you have, a simple logout. Maybe it might be a bit too blue. This kind of looks like a swimming pool. So you also have a very well. Here's the thing: you do have a decision between line and third, but in most of the testing, most of the players defaulted towards a triangle third, which fine. That's just the decision, the way it went. Um, you actually have some pretty defensible spots here, defensible spots here. It's like dragon skills, but not as radical almost. So Gravestone, I also gave it a good ranking. Again, that really good game kind of swayed it. Nice use of colors. It's long, it's wide. The third and fourth have choices. Uh, yeah, I wrote down there might be a Muta Phoenix issue, and this is okay. So this is something. The more complicated the map is, the better it is for air, because air just negates all kinds of terrain. So players on this map might want to just use air to, for example, hit these bases here, and just like not have to deal with the terrain. Yeah, so might be a bit air favored against Phoenixes, Mutas, Battlecruisers, but not something too radical. Yep, good tank spots on the high ground, so you can put tanks here and defend your base really easily. Again, it's Terran thing. um, so the thing is the the Overlord spot, which is roughly about here, it does see quite a lot, but that's a minor issue. But you can only see a single gas. Again, the big issue for me were for maps that in my opinion the Zerg should never be able to see more than one gas. One gas from natural max. We had some very broken maps in older map pools where the Zerg could see both the gases, and that would tell the Zerg a lot about the potential timings or what the Protoss is up to and what kind of tech, especially at the higher levels where exactly when they get their gases is critical to a lot of the decisions that they need to make in terms of what Protoss is doing mid game. So yeah, good map, entertaining, and I ranked pretty well. Let's see how it did. Not too well. It got 13, so that's unfortunate. Okay, so that's Grefsan. Okay, we're gonna skip NeoHumanity for a second because that's the interesting thing about this map pool. NeoHumanity did not make top 16 in the TLMC 17. That's a mouthful to say. However, it was submitted and did get it. I have done testing on NeoHumanity, and we'll get to that last. Let's go to Royal Blood. Royal Blood was also done by, well, it says here Milo on Fire, but updated name is May on Fire. Okay, so despite a short rush distance, this map avoids a lot of the safety early on by restricting movement of armies, allowing players to expand away from main attack paths. Base spread horizontally becomes harder to defend the game goes on, which is good. You do want games where you can take, two, maybe even three bases, but you don't want it to make it so safe that they can take like 7 or 8 bases um, early. That generally is favored, but it also doesn't create a lot of games because it then players are incentivized to stay on a higher base count rather than going and fighting. And you want exciting games where fight. So short rush distances, 2 building wall. I'll get to that. Restricted movement due to rocks. Go base with exposed middle third. Okay, so click. Skip. Okay, so let's talk about. Hey, May. Yes. So let's talk about Royal Blood. Okay, so this map to me was a decent map. Um, Likewise, I do like when you have a decision to make where you want to take your line or your third. A few players told me that the distance between the natural and the third might be a bit far for their liking. That said, not the biggest of issues. Some of them said that it was kind of balanced either ways. You do have destructible rocks here that could really open the third, but that's your call. Or you can take the line base, which is on low ground and theoretically harder to defend, but in reality it kind of comes down to the skill of the players. One thing I did like about, well, one thing interesting about this map is that in all the games we played, the goal base never really came into play, unlike altitude, and so it feels also more fair because there's actually space behind the goal middles that players can attack by. So it's like on Blackbird where there is a goal base. You can take it early, but there are ways to punish it. Like you put a single marine here, and it becomes you can't mine. The player who took goal base has to go and clean out the marine in order to continue fighting or continue mining more accurately. I saw this map being split left versus right instead of diagonally. Down here and down here. Lambo's game. Okay, okay. So, in my experience at the games I saw on the TLMC the Warrior tournament, I wasn't able to get any trends because a lot of the games to me felt the ones I had time to see were pretty dynamic. Again, we didn't really see any of the goal bases. I do like the aesthetic of the map. You know, it feels like fighting on a garden rooftop, complete with a landed starship here. Landed, not destroyed. Take a look at a prettier version. Yep, you can see the starship here. This is the Calmorian pirate ship from the co-op, by the way. You can see yeah, you're fighting on a rooftop. Very nice. You have fountains. You have uh gold. Actually, May, do you know why you call this royal blood? Is there a specific reasoning behind the name? Okay, so what did I write in my notes? Blood. Gateway War. Oh, right. Let me talk about the Overlord spot. Oh man, this is one of the most interesting things that happened during my testing of the TLMC. It's a rebel map against the rich. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so something really interesting that I saw on uh when testing was regarding the Overlord spot. I don't think they've shifted it, but I don't think they shifted it. But here's something really interesting for us players. This is whack. So it's absolutely true there's a two building wall, but where you put your gap has a major difference to how the game plays. Because if you build your gap here, let's say it's building, are you able to see my cursor? Okay, if it's building, gap, the Zerg can see, the Overlord can see whatever's coming out of the gateway, whatever's in the wall, whether it's open or closed, and anything that leaves the base. But if you go building hole, the hole here is outside of Overlord vision. That was insane. So at the higher levels, I think we're gonna see a better where the buildings are placed on this side because you can put gateway, cybercore, and gap. The Overlord cannot see whether the gate is open or closed. It cannot see what's coming in and out just because of the positioning here. Now, of course, if Protoss takes the base here, I mean by that time the Overlord should be dead. But in the early game, oh, big deal, especially when doing adept attacks. So gateway. So Protoss players build the wall on this side, away from the pillar, at the gap here. If the gap is anywhere except from here, the Overlord can see it. If you building gap, the Overlord can just barely see the gap. Building gap, the Overlord cannot see the gap. In fact, if you put your gateway here in the center, there's a chance that the Overlord will not be able to see the first unit coming out. Because if the unit comes out from the back of the gateway and parks itself here, Overlord has no idea what it is. So that was just one of the more interesting discoveries we made, and no other map has such a precise mechanic for the matchups. Anyway, very nicely designed map. I like the idea of it being, you know, according to the creator, it had this idea of it being, you know, a rebellion against the rich with burning buildings and paintings. But yeah, I do like the rooftop garden aesthetic on top of that. Right. And in the full results, Royal Blood got fourth place, so very well done. So before we go to NeoHumanity, if we look at the TLMC 17 results, we have 1, 2 inside. We then have Sistine, Gravestone, and Dragon Scales kind of at the bottom, unfortunately. But they're also making it into this round of ladder map pools. And we also have a few other maps. Maybe we'll see them in the future. Maybe we'll never see them again, but Hey, we'll see. Okay, now let's move on to the odd one out. NeoHumanity. Okay, so NeoHumanity is made by not character R, but Josh Diebold. This is his Twitter handle. Um, well done. Now this was interesting because I just played a few games on it literally today, and it's got some very, very interesting mechanics. Go back here as well. Okay, I can't zoom in on this version, fortunately, so we'll work with this. Okay, so something really, really, really interesting about this map, by the way, thank you, May, for tuning in, Sky Parada as well. Oh, and making these maps, of course, and giving me something to blabber about. Okay, so this map has a lot of decisions. It actually reminds me a little bit of uh Taikika? What's it called? It reminds me a little bit of Tailakia because of the fact that you have a okay, so here's the thing. So you have your natural, you have your main, you have your natural, you then have a middle wall that leads to your potential your line third. Uh some of the other interesting mechanics of this map is that you do have Zaldaga watchtowers here and here. Now in the center, and you have a high yield gas here. I like to call it terrazine gas. You then have destructible rocks here and pillars you can knock over. Now the towers in the middle are connected. You mean these? So if you blow one up, they all fall down. In the games I tested, that when you knock one down, four of them fall. Okay, that's interesting. So either player can completely knock down and lock down the center for a period of time until somebody else comes in and blows it up. I think we can see it here. Now there are also towers here at the back of the bases, at the back of the high of the terrazine bases that can be destroyed. Did not come into play in any of the testing, but it's something you can do. Okay, so let's go back to our bases, right, which is here and here. So I think that this is actually fine because it allows you to have a natural base that can open up towards your third, but you still have a choke point to prevent, Zergling floods and other kinds of stupid cheeses. I should be studying too, but here I am. Anyway, so I think this is fine. The issue I had with Taiki is that a Zerg that does a pylon, opponents that does a pylon block against Zerg immediately screws them over. In this case, I don't think it's that big a deal because even if Zerg takes this base or this base, it's not the biggest of deals. Um, Furthermore, for all of the races, I okay, see this thing, Zerg needs to expand faster than the other races. They generally need to be up a base in order to uh, get the economy roughly the same due to mules and chrono. That wasn't too big a deal because Zerg could, yeah, send a drone here, and there might be a bit of scuffling around this large zone to try and get the drone safely there. But if the drone could reach here safely, or send the drone a little bit earlier, hide it in the corner, if the drone could get here safely, then the then other workers can mine out this wall straight away. Like you just rally workers straight to the wall, mine it out, and then you now have access here. It has this weird added benefit that if you place a creep tumor here, the creep for both of the bases would be almost connecting. So you save out on a tumor on the spot. Um, Aside from that, the area here, there is an overlord safe spot, but it sees very little. There's no singular tower that you can just park your overlord uh, there. So yeah, the other thing that you need to be careful of is this area from the triangle third. The game I played against my friend, he put stalkers here and he was able to snipe the tanks. Again, I put it too far forward because I didn't realize how precarious it was. I predict in most games you will end up just taking the line third. Terran could build a third CC here and open this just when they want to take it. Protoss we're gonna have to mine it a bit. Protoss are gonna have to mine it a bit earlier, but I don't think that's a major issue. As for the As for the Zeldaga watchtowers, they do cover a fair amount of area here, but they don't cover the center. The real issue, well, issue the real thing about this map is that the pathing, especially around the corners, are gonna be really weird. One of the test games I had, I ordered my army, I think roughly from here, to go and attack here. The army ended up splitting in half. One went to the center, one went to the side, and that turned out to be pretty catastrophic because the army that came up here ended up hitting enemy resistance. The army that went through the center, then got completely annihilated by the main army. Uh, Now, as for what the value of the middle nodes here, I don't remember offhand what they were, but they mined out pretty fast. We might actually come to think of it, there might be room for some kinds of cheeses, maybe Voidway, maybe Proxy Rex down here to attack through here, but I don't know. It's gonna require more testing. Again, this one we didn't see any games played on it during the TLMC, so I don't know. Let's see if we can find out. I don't remember offhand. Yeah, I think two drones can mine it out because I sent I think about 8 or 9 drones to it, and all of them mined out pretty quickly. Yeah, so it's got a pretty interesting. I mean, I gotta admit, I like the color palette where you have. I wish the main bases were a slightly different shade of yellow. On this version, you can see it, but um, in game I didn't really notice a difference. Other than that, you have a very simple 2 layers. Yeah, I think at the beginning you're gonna have a lot of frustrated and angry players complaining about the pathing, especially through the center. Like if something is open versus something is closed. I mean, there's also a question of smart pathing, right? Like if the opponent destroyed the rocks and you have no idea, your army will walk through this path even though you never got the information that the path is open. Like the AI of the Marines, they just know. But if you didn't, and you think your army is going through here, or worse still, uh, through here to reach here, they might end up taking a completely different path. However, as people play this and they get used to it, it should not be too bad of an issue. Might have some very weird clashes in the center, but that is again something that's just gonna come with time, and we're gonna require more testing to see how that really turns out. Yeah, this is like you're fighting in an industrial area in the city. You see all these buildings at the side. So good aesthetic, good aesthetic. That map, we don't have anything to go on because it didn't make it to the top 16. So I was quite surprised to see the map. And yeah, so okay, so I'm just about done. That is my general review for the upcoming map pools. We're gonna have to see how they turn out in tournaments. When they are gonna be actually hitting the ladder, I don't know. Uh, Different sources they will hit the ladder, yes, no need to worry about that, but we don't actually know when. Another thing I need to point out about this specific map pool and everything I just said is that this is going to be coming out together with a major balance patch. It's coming out with a potential major balance patch, namely the things in the PTR patch notes. Creep Tuber nerf, Disruptor nerf, High Templar buff, so on and so forth. So I can't predict. So in all honesty, I can't predict how balance is going to go on all of these maps. I still have my concerns about altitude, but that's kind of it. All right, I'm done. If you like this content, do like and subscribe. If not, for me, the all links down in the description. Okay, I'm done. Anyway, thank you, May, and